All right, today's video, we have a car that's going to be going on the dyno. I want to show you what you need to do to your car before you go to the dyno to get a tune or do power pulls to make sure that it's as smooth as possible. All right, so we're gonna go over a checklist of things that you need to do before you go and get on the dyno. This car is here for a retune and some product testing. So what you wanna do is check your fluids, change your fluids, check your spark plugs or change your spark plugs. And you wanna do a boost leak test, which I'll show you guys how to do that and how to get your hands on one of these for really, really cheap. And then you wanna go through and check for any leaks anywhere, loose fittings, loose nuts, bolts, things of that nature. So we're gonna check our coolant. Let's pop the cap off. We need to add coolant, so we check that. We're gonna change the oil today. And then if you have an oil catch can, the catch can needs to be emptied, which we will be emptying on this one. And we're gonna go through and just do a nut and bolt check. So I can already notice that there is a nut missing from right here. And we gotta check to make sure this one's tight. So we'll take care of that. Make sure our wastegate stuff is all tight. And go from there, and then just do a visual inspection to make sure that all of our intercooler pipes are tight and things are not, falling off. So let's add some coolant. We'll do an oil change, and then when that's done, we'll come up here and we'll do a boost leak test. So we have a lift here, which makes this a lot easier, but you want to go over and check to make sure you have nothing loose in the front end. Tire pressures, we know these tire pressures are good already. Make sure your tires aren't bald. You're going to be doing over 100 miles an hour on that dyno. You don't want a tire exploding while that happens. That gets dangerous really, really fast. Under the vehicle, we're just going to do a check for some leaks. It looks like the oil drain plug is leaking, which is not a big deal. Put a new gasket on that. Otherwise, everything under here looks dry. So I'm going to go ahead and do an oil change. Okay, so next we are going to be doing a boost leak or smoke test. You can get this one for like 70 bucks on Amazon. It has a built-in air compressor, so you don't have to have your own compressor. If you want to save a little bit of money, you can get these where you have to hook up an air compressor. So if you own an air compressor and want to save some cash, you can get like $20, $30 one off Amazon. We're hooking it up to the intake in this case. So we're going to pressurize the entire system and see if we have any obvious leaks. If for some reason you can't hook up to the intake, pop off your intercooler pipe right off your turbo, and you can check that way as well. So we're gonna fire that up, we're gonna test that, and then once that test is done, we'll pull the spark plugs out and we're gonna check those over. All right, so pressure test was good, no leaks anywhere, it's holding pressure. So now we're gonna do the spark plugs on this car. We can pop off this intercooler pipe to pull the coil packs out. What we're checking for on the spark plugs is, does any of them look discolored in a different way than the other ones? That could tell you have a fuel injector or coil pack issue. Is the gap too large compared to when you put the plugs in? That could tell you that you're burning the plugs away or wearing them out much faster. Are the plugs, do they show signs of knock or physical damage that tells you something is wrong with the engine? So I'm gonna pull all these plugs out, we'll look at them and see if that is on any of them. I can point that out. If not, we'll just check them over, make sure the gap's right, and then throw them back in. All right, so this is the plug that I took out of cylinder 2. As you can see, nice tight gap, which is what I put in there. And just I want you to pay close attention, if it would focus, to the bottom electrode, or anode, whichever side that is, and see how it's still nice and pointy. So now we're gonna look at the other plugs. All 3 of them are like this. You'll notice, come on, that the anode or electrode on the bottom is very rounded off and pretty much gone. So these plugs are worn out. If we tighten that gap up, which we could, you technically could use them, but I wouldn't tune on them just because there's not as sharp of an edge, which means the arc isn't going to be as predictable, which is never a good thing. As for why 3 of them wore out over just that one, could be a number of things. This thing had 4 coil packs put in it at one point. I don't remember why. It was probably because 1 or 2 of them was on their way out. And it could be that these other plugs were the weaker coils and just wore them out faster. So we have some NGKs coming direct from Nissan right now to put in here. But it is very, very important that you take a look at your spark plugs. If we had thrown this thing up on the dyno with the plug, that one's gone. With the plug gaps that we found, it would have been knock central and we wouldn't have made anywhere near as much power and it wouldn't have been as safe. So it's very important that you check your spark plugs. If they look like they're in decent shape, like this one plug looks like it's in decent shape, you know, you can just check the gap, set the gap and toss it back in. But if they're worn out, like this one, I should say the other three, then you're gonna wanna replace those. As far as what plugs to put back in your car, if you're tuning for more power than the car came with, always recommended to go a step colder if possible. In this particular instance, we're gonna be putting the stock plugs back in because they are fine for the power that this car can make. We're limited to about 300 horsepower just because this is a stock engine and a stock clutch in this car. If we ever wanted to go for more power on this particular vehicle, we would need to change out to a different spark plug that is a little bit colder so that it can handle the higher boost levels and run a little bit more timing. So we're gonna wait for those to get in. We'll put those in and then the car is ready for the dyno. So that's pretty much everything you need to do and check for getting ready to go to a dyno session. Again, fluid check. We had to put some coolant in this. We'll bleed that when the car gets back running. But that's everything that you want to check. Shaking down the front end, checking tires, boost leaks, make sure your lines are all hooked up and everything is working.
Like and subscribe.